Imagine waking up and realizing you've been without electricity for days. The shops are closed, and the atmosphere on the street is no longer the same. Your cell phone is dying, your neighbors are on edge, and you suddenly understand how vulnerable you are when everything depends on an outlet. Most people think they're prepared with a flashlight and a couple of candles, but the reality is quite different. The cold in the refrigerator disappears in hours, food starts to spoil, and electricity becomes a luxury. However, small details make a huge difference. A freezer full of frozen water bottles keeps things cold much longer. Adjusting the temperature before the blackout buys you valuable hours, and opting for solar or hand crank lighting helps. Avoid being left in the dark when you need it most. It's not about expensive gadgets, but about thinking ahead and using physics to your advantage. And that's where most people completely fail. Cooking, charging devices, and getting safe water when everything goes dark. There are simple techniques like thermal cooking that allow you to finish cooking food using only the accumulated heat, saving fuel when it's scarce. Instead of relying on small power banks that quickly run out of battery, a basic battery system can keep lights, phones, and essential equipment running for days. The same is true for water. It's not enough to simply store it. You need to know how to purify it without wasting unnecessary resources. And finally, there's food. Because in a crisis, you don't just need calories, but nutrients that keep your body strong and your mind clear under pressure. When systems fail, the difference between chaos and control isn't luck, it's smart preparation. Before continuing, it's important to note that this content is for informational and educational purposes only. It's not meant to generate fear or replace official guidelines. Now, let's continue. Here's a truth that almost no one mentions, and it can make a huge difference. It's not just about storing food, but about producing real nutrition, even when everything else fails. Sprouting seeds and grains is one of the smartest and most overlooked strategies out there. You don't need soil, they take up almost no space, and in just a few days you have live sprouts full of vitamins, enzymes, and real energy, while most people survive on bland, nutrient-poor emergency food. Add to that fermented foods like sauerkraut or kefir, which not only last longer without refrigeration, but also strengthen the digestive system and boost mood during stressful times. As for protein, dried legumes combined with grains are inexpensive, last for years, and avoid the monotony and cost of relying solely on canned meat. And don't forget fats and spices. A little of the right oil and basic seasonings can transform a lackluster meal into something that truly lifts your spirits when you need it most. Survival isn't just about eating, it's also about staying informed and connected. In prolonged situations, official information can disappear or become unreliable. That's why you need alternatives. Battery-powered or hand-crank radios, offline maps, downloaded information, and communication methods that don't rely on a single infrastructure can make the difference between chaos and control. Text messages often work when calls fail, and a well-equipped radio can give you a much more realistic view of what's happening around you than any headline. Even listening to emergency communications allows you to understand the situation in real time. Being prepared isn't paranoia. It's about reducing uncertainty, protecting your loved ones, and staying calm when everything else seems to be falling apart. When everything depends on electricity, a single blackout can render the modern world useless. That's why analog is regaining immense value. Physical books, printed notes, and paper information don't get erased, don't fall apart, and don't need batteries. Add to that simple yet clever ways to local communication tools, such as apps that allow messaging between nearby phones without internet or signal, create small neighborhood networks that survive when official systems collapse. In those moments, coordinating with those who live nearby can make the difference between chaos and calm. Real security isn't about turning your house into a visible fortress, but about going unnoticed. Avoiding attention is often the best defense. Even so, the most effective protection is almost never individual. It works best when it's communal. Getting to know your neighbors, establishing mutual aid agreements, and organizing basic surveillance allows you to detect problems before they escalate. Even something as simple as a dog, large or small, can become an invaluable early warning system, provided it's well cared for and fed. Silent prevention is often more powerful than any sophisticated technology, but it's not all physical. The mind is also put to the test. Isolation, uncertainty, and disrupted routines wear you down faster than many realize. Maintaining consistent sleep, meal, and exercise schedules helps sustain mental health when everything outside seems unpredictable. Exercise, even minimal, releases tension and brings order to the day. Social connection, board games, reading, and creative activities are not luxuries in difficult times. They are psychological tools that maintain mental clarity and prevent stress from taking over. Finally, crises almost always impact finances as well. Banking systems can fail, digital payments can disappear, and access to your own funds can be blocked. In these scenarios, cash becomes key again, especially in small bills and stored in various locations. Furthermore, certain everyday items like batteries, basic food items, tools, or fuel can become currency, reducing debt before problems arise. Developing practical skills that can generate alternative income is a quiet but powerful way to protect your future. Preparation isn't paranoia, it's responsibility. When everything is working, transportation seems like something everyday life until it isn't anymore. In a real crisis, being able to move can mean the difference between safety and complete isolation. That's why your vehicle goes from being a luxury to your lifeline. Keeping it in good condition and with enough fuel isn't overkill, it's common sense. Gas stations depend on electricity, and when it fails, money stops mattering. Having at least a half-full tank, some extra fuel safely stored, and knowing how to perform basic repairs can prevent you from being stranded when you most need to get out. But the reality is that no vehicle is infallible. That's why thinking about alternatives is a sign of intelligence, not paranoia. Bicycles, even electric ones, can move when cars can't. They're quiet, and they don't depend on scarce fuel. Walking, something many underestimate, becomes a key skill again. Good shoes, appropriate clothing, and knowing safe routes can allow you to reach hospitals, family members, or supply points. Even public transportation, which many dismiss, is sometimes the only option. Available in evacuations or specific emergencies. Health is another area where there is no room for error. In critical situations, medical services can take days or never arrive, and that's when you become your family's first responder. A solid understanding of first aid, shock management, infections, dehydration, and hypothermia can save lives. Having essential medications, especially prescriptions, and knowing how to store them without electricity is vital. Additionally, some well-known natural remedies can be helpful as long as they are used knowledgeably and cautiously. Finally, there's something almost no one mentions. Preparedness isn't just physical, it's mental and social. Stress, fear, and uncertainty can be more dangerous than a lack of resources. Learning to manage anxiety, stay calm, and rely on others makes a huge difference. Being prepared isn't about living in fear, it's about building confidence. Confidence that no matter what happens, you'll have the ability to adapt, help others, and maintain your dignity when many others panic. And that peace of mind when everything is shaking is worth more than any supplies. Yeah,